Hola, Jefa Talk. Welcome back. I'm so excited. We're now filming season 6, and today I have a special guest here with us. Thank you again for joining me this morning. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself for the girlies listening?
Hi, I'm Maria Guadalupe, aka Marilu.
So I'm so excited because I've actually watched you since you pretty much have started. And it's so crazy to see all the things that you have been able to accomplish so far. So tell me a little bit about you and your upbringing and kind of take us on this journey of where you are now.
Okay, so I don't even know where to start. I guess for you guys, I am a freelance makeup artist and a content creator. Um, I don't know, my journey kind of starts like I started with the whole makeup thing, putting it on social media probably in 2015 where it all started. Like my journey on the internet started when a girl from my small town, I'm from Oklahoma, from Tulsa, Oklahoma. This girl started a Facebook group and it was all about beauty. It was actually called Beauty with B, Beauty with B, because her name was Brittany. And so all of Tulsa, all the girly pops from Tulsa posted on their like makeup tips, pictures of themselves. And by this time, I was already like years obsessed with makeup. And I started posting my makeup, my color pop orders on there because this is when Instagram started. So I started posting my little color pop hauls on there and people liked it. And, all the girls that were into makeup commented. They were like, oh, cool. Like, hey, there's a sale for this, or hey, da 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 da. And I would start posting selfies with my new lipsticks. And people liked it. People started commenting, they started following me on Instagram, and that's where it all started. Like it was just me being a makeup obsessed little girl because I'm 26 now, and I was probably a junior in high school when this started. I remember because I had my job and I started, all my little money went towards makeup. Um, Buying makeup, and ColourPop was my main one because they were like $6 back in the day. And versus $6 versus spending like 20 bucks at MAC, ColourPop was it for me. Um, and that's where it all started, really. It was just my obsession with makeup, and just nobody else was into it. Like when nobody else was wearing full beats to school, none of my friends were makeup girls. I started wearing makeup when I was 11 years old. So from 11 to then, like it had already been a whole other journey in itself. And that's pretty much how I started.
So let me ask you this. Obviously, that's honestly how I found you. I'm not even sure if it was that makeup page or at that point. I'm sure you have grown in different groups at that point. But I remember seeing it was a color pop or some kind of makeup look that you did. And the reason why I gravitated more towards you is because of the colors that you used to use. Like I'm talking about not just your regular little beat, but I really love the colors that you used to put on. And then back then, I think that you had colored hair, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this girl is so my vibe. I love it. And so that's how I found you. And so being somebody from a small town, when did you realize like, wait, I'm actually growing into like an influencer? Like what was that moment for you where you realized like, okay, other people know me? Like, was it like an interaction where somebody was like, "Hey, I've seen you on social media." Like, do you have a moment like that?
Yes, and actually that's where I think some of my social anxiety started. So, coming from a small town, and like you said, I had colorful hair, I did colorful makeup, and I think I got into makeup because, well, one, I always gravitated towards art. Like I was always a very artsy person. I think even now, as a makeup artist, I see things in color. And I mean, I tried painting, I tried doing dance, I tried doing skateboarding, anything artsy fartsy, like I tried doing it, except I was like really mediocre at it. Like I was not good at it, like at all. However, then like I discovered makeup, and that's what it stuck with me, like you were saying, with the hair and the colors, and I really just experimented. And when because I was doing these things that were a little different, that were a little funkier, I think I went on so like the internet and social media because I wanted the sense of community. Like I wasn't like funky, it wasn't weird on the internet. Like people were like, "Oh, I like that," like you said. And I really feel like I made my friends, and like even till now, like all of my friends, I have more online friends than I have any real life friends. And when you asked me about when it was the first time somebody was like, "Oh, are you?" I remember, I don't remember the first time, but I remember there was times where I would go. I remember even going to McDonald's one time with my friends, and this girl was like, "Aren't you that Pugs girl?" And I'm like, "Yes, that's me." And they gave me a free fries. They gave me free fries for it. And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And slowly that started to like become a thing because I used to post Snapchat tutorials. So on my Snapchat tutorials, like it was crazy. Like back in the day, I would have like 1,000 viewers or 1,000 people watching my story. And I'm like, girl, I don't even know 10 people. Like, I don't know where this is coming from. And I would post my tutorials, and I was never really a popular person. So, like, Tulsa started like some Tulsa people started following me, and they would like slide up, and then when they see me like out and about, I would get, "Are you that Pugs girl?" Because I used to go by Pugs Forever, which is a whole story in itself. Girl, I feel like I've lived 12 different lives already. I have eras like of all of my life, but yeah, I think the McDonald's one was like the very prominent one in my mind. And mind you, I was a junior slash yeah, I was a junior in high school during this time. And the McDonald's one where I was like, wow, my friend was like, "Girl, you're famous. You just got a free small fry." And I'm like, and I looked so ugly. I was so ugly during that time because I was just like toda fodonga and everything.
Yeah, just hanging
But
out.
yeah, that was like the most prominent one. And then after that, after high school, I started working at Mac. And that's when people really came and they started asking for me. They'd be like, "Does Pugs Forever work here?" And they'd be like, "Oh, Marilu or Maria, yeah, she's right there." And so I remember my manager used to make fun of me. She's like, "Yeah, some of your fans came in. Like they were asking for Pugs Forever." And I'd be like, "For me?"
Now tell me, obviously you transitioning from your username, I kind of remember slightly reading the backstory on that.
Yeah.
What officially made you change your mind in changing your name?
From Pugs Forever to Marilu?
Yeah.
Well, I want to touch on this. A lot of people are going to hear like pugs. And I feel like it's a really important story that now that I have the opportunity to somebody listening to me, I want to touch on it. Like, can I talk a little bit
Yes.
about how I got Pugs Forever? So I got Pugs Forever because in 8th grade, there was this boy who commented on one of my pictures on Facebook, and this was during the Tumblr era. So again, I've always been into artsy things. Like I started out with like painting, photography, all of that, right? So I had this like little Nikon camera, and I remember I was so proud of my selfies back in the day. And this boy, he commented on my picture, and he was like something about like, "You're ugly, you look like a pug because your eyes are too separated apart." And I never grew up around animals during that time. Like I have an immigrant family. I feel like there's something about immigrant families that don't have animals. So, anyways, this was when I was like, "A pug," and I look it up. and I see this little squished faced little animal with separated bug eyes. And I was like, you know what? I love pugs. Like, screw you. Like, I think pugs are so cute. So, me being petty, I changed all of my social media name. And for some reason, this boy really triggered me. Like, I don't know why it triggered me. I think it's because he was like, I don't know. That just triggered me. So, I started like putting my cover photo on Facebook, pugs. My background is pugs. I started seeing all these pugs, and I genuinely thought they were so cute. So it was kind of something where the boy tried to make fun of me and tell me I was ugly looking like a pug. And even till now, like I tell people, oh yeah, it looks like me. And like I'll show a little pug and they're like, no, don't say that. And I'm like, no, it's fine. It's okay. Like I think it's so cute. So it started off with him just trying to tell me that I was ugly. And I turned it around and I was like, you're not gonna bully me. Like I'm gonna take this and run with it. So then Instagram came along, and that's how I got my handle, Pugs Forever, because I started this whole thing. And so then my name is Maria. So when I would tell people, or because I posted so much about pugs, they would know me as the pug girl. And it was so much that people would be like, hey, Pugs Forever, or hey, Pugs. Like my best friend, there's a Chiquita, 11 years old. Instead of calling me by my name, she knows me as Pugs. So her husband will be like, hey, tell Pugs I said what's up. I'm like, hey, till this day. And so I'm Pugs Forever. And people would be like, do you have a pug? And I'm like, no, I wish, but it started off because of that, right? And it'd be to the point where people would only know me as that. And then they'd be like, wait, what's your name? And I'm like, oh, my name is Maria. And they'd be like, oh, which is a whole nother thing. They'd be like, oh, I'd rather call you Pugs. And I'm like, oh, okay. And now going back to why I changed my name, I did not like Maria. I think growing up, the way I grew up as a Mexican immigrant child with a very traditional name. I mean, my name is Maria Guadalupe, and during this era, I feel like there's a lot of self judgment, a lot of ignorance around, a lot of stigmas around like you don't want to be too Mexican, right? Because it's bad, it's tacky, it's chunti, it's all these things. And I think I really internalized that because my family knows me as Lupita, because Maria Guadalupe. And I remember like my cousins telling me that like they feel bad for me. I remember they're like, oh yeah, your mom named you such a Mexican name. And so I didn't like my name, which is why when people were like, I'd rather call you Pugs, I was like, yeah, you can just call me Pugs because, well, I at the same time felt like my name didn't fit me because I had colorful hair. I didn't look your stereotypical Mexican, right? And I allowed people to call me Mexican, and it just like validated my own insecurity about my name is too Mexican or it doesn't fit me. Like I'm not like that kind of Mexican, which is so ignorant. Um, so whenever I transitioned from like going to pugs, I think it was during a time that I no longer wanted to not like me or my name. I feel like this was an era of being a little girl, of being insecure, of being trying to conform to the social standards. And whenever I decided that I didn't want to hide my name anymore, I really wanted to be more confident in who I am as a person. And I feel like for some reason my social media name mattered to me. Like I didn't want people to know me as Pugs. Like, no, my name is Maria Guadalupe, okay? And that's how Marilu came in because I was like, ooh, Maria and Lupita, let's just combine it. Because at the same time, I mean, now I love my name, but even at that time, it was still teetering between like, I like it, but I kind of don't like it. Like, I don't like Maria, but I don't like Lupita in English because it'll be Lupita. I hated the way people would say it. So I think when I changed, when I went from Pugs Forever to Marilu, it was kind of like from being a little girl to like a young woman.
like stepping into your confidence, into your person, like this is me, this is what I love about myself. And I think that's awesome that you share that, because I'm sure a lot of us have gone through that. I know I have, because I'm from Los Angeles, and I actually live in San Antonio, Texas. And that was such a big culture shock for me, that it was even like, here Hispanics don't speak Spanish. And so I noticed that when I started high school here, the kids that would speak Spanish, they were kind of pushed off to like a certain section, and it's like they all hung out together, and you start to see these like groups separate. And I was like, I wasn't used to that. And so I can totally relate to the whole like kind of being embarrassed of, or not, maybe not even embarrassed, but like feeling like, I don't really want to embrace that part of me. Like, and I think in the beauty industry, because you are in the beauty industry, I think we've seen a lot of beauty influencers now embrace that culture and embrace their roots. And I think it's awesome, but I
Mhm.
also feel like it should have been that way from the beginning, so that little girls like us growing up wouldn't have felt like, I don't really want to like be labeled that. And so to see that you took something that should have been negative, because bullying sucks, you turned it into something where it's like, no, I'm gonna turn it into something positive, and then you kind of outgrew it, and then you grew into you, like
No, shout
confident
out to
yourself.
him. He gave me my name. Like, what was his name? Anthony. Anthony. No, Andrew. It was Andrew. Like, he literally gave me my name to where it's like people knew me, people I didn't know knew me. And it's like not a whole lot of people because I wasn't like famous or whatever, but I like people knew me. He gave me my name, and yeah, like he tried to make fun of me, and I literally turned it around. And I feel like the whole trajectory of my life is the epitome of like fake it till you make it. Like I faked that it didn't hurt me, and then it really didn't hurt me. Like it literally gave me my name. And like you said, embarrassed. I feel like embarrassed. Wow. For me personally, we don't want to say, oh, I was embarrassed, because now it's something cool. It's actually something that people use to their advantage. They're like, oh, Latina this, Latina that. And which is great because you build a sense of community. However, sorry, going back to that, I think embarrassed, sometimes we are embarrassed to say we're embarrassed, but that is such a reality. It's true. We were embarrassed because we were told that you shouldn't be like that. Like you told, if you're too Mexican, if you're, like you said, like if you spoke Spanish, that means, and I say these words that I shouldn't use, but I want to like highlight that this was a real thing. Like we want to think that racism, colorism is so far away, but no, baby, I was in it. I remember. We remember like the kids who recently came from Mexico or who were closer to their Mexican roots who what spoke Spanish, right? They were in a clique. And then you had the kids who were, a little bit more, how do I say it, Americanized, because, they spoke more English, yada, yada, like, their style may be a little bit, their proximity to whiteness, right? Like that's another little group. And like you said, there was a lot of separation, and it's a lot of separation amongst ourselves, like me coming from Mexico. But I came when I was really little, girl. I was 1 year old, 1.5, not even two when I came over here. And so I was very different. I went to school where I was like the only Mexican there. And because I was here very early on, I feel like my English had less of an accent. My Spanish wasn't as good and stuff. And it is a very culture shock to, especially now to see it as a adult, how during the time you didn't even know that you segregated each other. Like it was like the modernized Mexicans here, maybe the ones that were born here over here, and the ones who just came, right over here. And it's crazy. It's really crazy.
Yeah, I definitely remember feeling that getting here and seeing like, wow, this is really like a it's like a big deal. Like in high school, it was such a big deal that I was just like, you know what? I don't even want to be labeled like that. I don't want to be subject to bullying because it was a thing too, being bullied because like, oh, why do you speak Spanish? Like, do you think you're better? Or so I remember shying away from that, and now it's awesome to see in the beauty industry, yeah, you embracing it, and now it being like, oh well, I'm a Latina creator, I'm this, I'm that. It's beautiful to see the community now, you know.
Hmm.
But let me ask you, like, for you, for your journey, when did you start to embrace? Because I know that you are also engaged also now. So let's talk a little bit about that. But how was your like how were you able to embrace not only being Latina creator, but also being obviously a immigrant and being queer?
Oh, girl, listen, that it was a very my queerness, I feel like, how do I say it? I was able to embrace it when I left Tulsa. Oh my gosh, this subject is still kind of touchy to me because it was very much a journey. Um, I feel like my journey is very much about self acceptance and embracing. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to
No,
to
no, it's
stop the
okay.
thing.
It's okay because I want you to know that there are other women, other, people that look up to you that are probably feeling the same way. And it's awesome to hear, your story, your part of that journey because you never know who that might help, you know?
No, absolutely. And I think that that's always been my main thing with my dream of why I have social media. And I think it really stems from the fact that I feel like I've never belonged here or there. Whether it was because of where I come from, whether it's because of my personal taste and style and personality, whether it's my sexual orientation. I feel like I've always, and still to this day, I struggle with like finding where I belong and finding that I feel like I don't belong here or there. Like I have never fit in a mold, and I've always wanted, which is, it's kind of hard to navigate, right? Because you have other things like algorithms and what's popular and what's good with brands and what's da 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 da, what's good with community. And even though my wishes and my wants for my social media presence sometimes don't along with its current way, if you ask me in a perfect world, my social media is supposed to be a place where I really want to reach these people, like you said, like me, who don't fit in, who are a little different, who are stories so different. Like, girl, can you imagine the trauma of being an immigrant and being gay and being an artist and being an entrepreneur? Like, I feel like the Lord,
Mhm.
I don't know why he chose me to be one of his toughest soldier because I don't like to be inconvenienced. So, navigating my queerness with who I am was honestly something really difficult, and it took me leaving my hometown because I live in Dallas now, leaving my hometown to really be able to heal this part of me that for a long time I didn't know it needed to be healed. Like I didn't know that the way I was brought up and whom I was around affected me the way it affected me. Girl, when I moved to Dallas, I disappeared from social media for a few years, like two, I want to say. And it was, I mean, it was really hard. I really got to know all of my demons, and man, those demons are strong. I don't know what Ouija board they came from because it was tough. Like, I don't know, ask me something.
Well,
Like,
let me start by so you moved to Dallas, and so did you meet your fiance there in Dallas?
so okay, thank you. Great. Oh, sorry, I go on a tangent of like 10 different
Oh no,
million
you're
stories.
totally
So
okay.
I need you to like guide me. So I met my girlfriend, now fiance, on Tinder. Let me tell you the story. I, so previously to her, okay, no, here's where I'll start the story. I was celebrating my 21st birthday in Dallas for a Bad Bunny concert. Okay, during this era of my life, let me paint you the setting. It was, I feel like I didn't come out of the closet to my mother until, or to people until probably junior, senior year. It was my senior year, or yeah, senior year where I had my first girlfriend or whatever. And I told my mom that I was like, hey, I sent her a picture. Like, hey, hi, this is her. And then she's like, oh, cute. Y'all are so cute. I was like, yeah, this is my girlfriend. And that's when it started. But during this time, it was very much like, I love you, but don't tell anybody.
Hmm.
It was that kind of situation. And so what happened then is that I I love the Tinder feature where you can put 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80,000 miles away because that's the only way I felt comfortable in a sense exploring myself because I wanted to keep it separate from the people in Tulsa on top of the fact that it's a small city and there's not a lot of like I don't know, it's not like now or I don't know, I just feel like there's not a lot of queer people that I knew. Anyways, so during this time Bad Bunny, okay, Bad Bunny concert. I'm like, oh, let me get my Tinder going. Let me get a bunch of girls I can go back home and talk to. And it so happens that my current fiance, her birthday is April 7th and my birthday is April 3rd. So we were both, she's around here from Dallas. So she was in, but I think during the time she lived in another little city around here. Anyways, we were in the same vicinity for the concert or whatever that weekend. And we matched on there. And when we matched, like, whatever, it was cute. We matched. I went back home. We were talking, and it was a situation where I remember she was like, you're too cute to be so far away. And I was like, some would say I'm worth the trip because during that time, I was like talking to girls I lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma City, which is now 45 minutes away. Like, I was talking to some girls from around here. Like, during the time I didn't know that I was doing that, but I really tried to keep people far away from me so my community and the family around that I had wouldn't those lives wouldn't cross paths. So when me and her met, I fell in love with her. We fell in love and it was a situation where it's like it was tough because she's over here, I'm over there, right? And I'm 21 at this point. So I have a little bit more freedom. Mexican parents. My mom found out that I was over here. I was supposed to be staying at my cousin's house. Like supposedly this my mom thought that I was sorry, I jumped ahead. Okay, we're talking blah 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 blah. We hit it off. I drop my hose, she drops her hose, and it's like, okay, it's me and you, let's meet up, right? And so I visited her here in Dallas, like the second time around, and I tell my mom because I have family here. I have my mom's two sisters are here. Like Dallas has always been a place where I said I was going to move to. Like I manifested it. I'm a big manifester. And I told my mom, like, voy a ir con mis primas. I'm gonna go with my cousin, da 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 da. And my mom calls my aunt and she's like, hey, ¿dónde está Lupita? Da 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 da. ¿Y qué están haciendo las niñas? And my aunt's like, Lupita, she's not here. And so that's when this whole drama happens. And my mom is basically like, which I love my mom, no hate to her. We've come a long way. And she's like, para eso vas, you know, it was a big old ordeal. And it was a situation where it was kind of like, by this time, like my dad didn't know anything. Like from the period where I told my mom in senior year until now, my mom was very much like, kind of like, it's your business. Nobody needs to know. So low key hide it, right? And so we had this conversation, and from then on, we didn't talk about this. Don't let your dad know because I don't know. You know, she told me not to let my Mexican dad know. And so it was kind of very hidden in a way. Like, yeah, so it was very hidden. And it came to be a situation where, like, esta es mi casa, tú vas a seguir mis reglas o te me vas. And I was so heartbroken because I was like, oh my God, I found this person who, like, is everything I've ever wanted in my life. And it was a situation where, like, she was like, come, I got you. You know, like, I'm gonna cry. She's like, I got you. Like, I got really, really depressed. I was really, really sad because my mom was basically like, no, like you can't go out and do that. You can't go out and go to another state. And I think a part of it was she was just worried, or just a very protective mom. And it was so new to her because from then on I've never dated. I never brought people over. Like all my cousins brought boyfriends, and people, like a bunch of people for like Christmases and da da da, because they were a little older than me by then. And I never did. Like nobody ever knew I dated anybody. Like I was never somebody who brought people home or anything. So my parents were so spoiled. So when I did this thing, they were like, oh my God, the world was ending and I was horrible. I was a bad child. And the long story short, that was still really long. um, it was my now fiance. She was kind of like I got you, you know, like come. And I trusted her. Which was very crazy for me because, like I said, I'm not one. I was always the kind of person's like I rather be by myself. Like I was very independent, very this, but it was a really traumatic experience. And here I am, 5, almost 6 years later, and that's how I ended up moving over here. Like we were dating for 6 months. It was from April to November of 2020, right before COVID. When did COVID happen?
COVID happened March. Well, actually happened December 2020 when it was like just
Starting when?
yeah, and then March was when we had our shutdown.
Well, I moved in November 2020. And then I moved over here. I didn't tell anybody. I just moved over here. Um, and yeah, that's when this whole journey, this whole era happened. That's when like I disappeared from social media, which my story, like sometimes I feel like a fraud calling myself an influencer or anything because my story has not been like boom. Like my story's like very much, you know, it's very. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did, but
Okay.
you're totally fine because the reason why I wanted to touch on that is because I want people to realize that you don't have to become an influencer or to be in this industry. You don't really have to be so like have like an overnight success story. Like it takes time. And I remember from seeing you in makeup groups to now, and it's like I've pretty much have watched that whole journey. Even when you disappeared for a little bit, I was like, why don't I see her? And then I started seeing you more, and I remember seeing you on TikTok, and you were growing your TikTok, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna follow her because I remember following her from makeup, and seeing you create and like start doing that, doing the tips, and now seeing your platform and how big it is. It's like I want people to realize that realistically, it's okay to take a break to figure out what kind of content you want to create, or life happens, But it's like the point is that if you have a dream, it will happen when it needs to happen. I'm sure in a way, it was a heartbreaking thing for you to experience with your family, but I'm sure in that period, it taught you a lot about yourself, a lot about your parents that I'm sure you guys have worked through now. And it's like, imagine if you would have not stepped into that and what a blessing you would have missed out on?
No, absolutely. I think if anybody is hearing this, sometimes I get in my own head, and then there's people like you who come and tell me, like, oh, I've been intrigued, or I've watched you go from point A to point B right now. And sometimes, like, I don't think about that. It's easy to get in your own head and forget about that. But when I get messages like yourself or opportunities like this, where people's like, well, I've seen it, I've seen you, I've been interested in your story ever since then. It is a reaffirmation and a reminder to, like, this is why I'm doing it. Or like, there is people out there who care to see what I have to say, or who care to see what I'm doing. And if anyone is listening, my gosh, like, l- you see things like who, like Itati, you see these influencers and you think that you can't get there, or you missed your opportunity, because that was the feeling I had when I disappeared from socials. Like, I started at the start of, and I think I even had like 20,000 followers during this time. And when I disappeared, it went down. Like, it went so down. But I had a rapid growth during the start of Instagram, and then I was like, "Ooh, I missed my opportunity. I missed my opportunity. I'm too old." Can you believe that? I was like, "Oh, I'm too old to go on TikTok." Like, girl, shut up. But we often come through these parts of life where you have to take a step back, and sometimes you beat yourself up because you're like, I could have been here, but I had to do a loop around, and I had to do a loop around. And it's a constant reminder that everybody's journey is so different. And just because you didn't go super stardom, overnight success, like, there's a theory right now that it takes 10 years to be an overnight success, like Sabrina Carpenter, like, she's been at it for a long time. And you wouldn't even know of her story until, like, now that she's really, really big. um, but she's been on it and she's been grinding for a really, really long time. And I feel like that's just, it's so easy to think that things are going to go like that, but that's not everybody's journey. And remind yourself that I have to remind myself all the time that, like, okay, just because I'm not here doesn't mean that I'm not doing good, because I had to go through so much. And there's some people who do get overnight success, and what happens is they literally go crazy. They go crazy, or social media affects them in a way where they turn to things that aren't very healthy for them, because they didn't have the mindset that is needed to handle certain success. You know what I mean? Like, now when I pray, or when I think to myself, I try to make myself feel better, because sometimes I feel like, oh my gosh, you've been doing this since 2015. It's 2025. And, like, look where you're at. You're not where you need to be. But I keep trying to tell myself, like, I'm getting older. Like, that wasn't supposed, if fame was supposed to happen to me back in the day, I would have probably, like, girl, like, jumped off somewhere, okay? Because I wouldn't have had the mental capacity, the self-love, the frontal lobe, the emotional intelligence to handle it. Like, imagine me in 2016, right? Being closeted, okay? Having so much self-hatred, having the trauma of being an immigrant, the trauma of being queer, and then having the internet, like, bully me for doing something silly. Like, I don't know what would have happened to me. So for anybody, like you said, I want people to know as well too that progress is not linear. It is not linear. And I say this, all of this that I'm saying, like, I say it to myself. I have to remind myself all the time that I'm like, it's okay. It's okay. Like, just don't stop. I haven't stopped doing makeup. and videos on the internet has been the only consistent thing that I've been able to do in my life. Why? I feel like it's the only thing that's my journey. Like I have to be able to, there's nothing else that I can do. I've tried to quit it so many times, but there's something in the back of my mind that is constantly like, no, like go. Like I feel unfulfilled unless I'm doing this. And what has it brought me? I mean, you say that you see this, and I wish I could see myself the way you say, because it would be so beautiful to have that. But to me, I see myself, and I'm like, oh, you know, it's
We
not that much.
I would say we all struggle with that because I want to say, even me, I just turned 31 yesterday, and I feel
Happy
like,
birthday.
thank you. And I feel like I've been on the internet and I've been on this journey of like sharing, and I wouldn't call myself an influencer because I don't do like makeup or anything, but I'm more of like a storyteller. Like I'm very like I connect, I build community, and there's times where I sit back and I'm like, I'm not where I want to be. Like I definitely feel the I miss my mark because when I started social media was back in 2013, 2020, yeah, 2013. Like right after I had my first son, and like YouTube was going off. I remember my sister gifted me my first camera and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to do this. And I always feel like I'm not where I want to be. What is it that I want to do? Like sometimes I'm like, I want to quit social media. Like I get in my head, and then like you said, you find people that connect and they're like, "Oh, I saw your podcast, or I saw your post about this, and thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for connecting with this." And it's like it's a reminder of like, no, my journey is my journey and I'm going to get to wherever I need to be when the time is right. But so far, I've been able to inspire people, motivate them, give them hope to be, a better self. And so I totally feel you on that. I think that a lot of us struggle with that, but like you said, we all have a different journey and looks different. And it to me it is awesome to see because I remember seeing you from posting on your makeup group to now, and it's amazing to see. And so if you forget that, I hope that you always remember in the back of your mind that there are people like me that still watch you and still cheer you on. um, Now tell me, what was the first time that you worked with a brand that they reached out to you and you were like, "Oh my God, like this is my moment. Like this is the brand that I get to work with," and you were not expecting?
Well, before we get to that, I wanted to say, you literally, you contacting me to be on this podcast, one, is amazing. You are so inspiring. Like, I am so excited to be here on this podcast. I'm so excited because I also remember you from then. I remember you being on my socials. Like, you are a person that I could say, like, oh, I've watched her also grow up. And for you to have this podcast and be doing it, it's literally so inspiring to me. I think it is so cool. It is a dream of mine to have a podcast as well. And for you to be doing it, it does give me hope and inspiration as well to be like, oh my gosh, like it's possible. Like there's people out here who are doing it. I can do that too, you know? It's inspiring. It's amazing for to see people go for what they want to do, to have a platform to storytell like you're doing, and even just to have the balls to do something you want to do, whether no matter how small or how big, it's so like I love to see it. I think that's why I love social media, because I love to be able to see people's life and stories and hopes and dreams develop no matter where we're at. And you are one of these people that, oh my God, like what you're doing is amazing. It's inspiring. It fuels me. I've been in such a rut that you and your podcast like has brought me back to life. Like literally, I thank you. And it's crazy because things like this happen that, and you are a reminder to me, like, keep going. Like you're over here doing a podcast, like you're speaking, you're taking up space. it reminds me that I need to take up space as well, and it's mutual. Like I'm a fan of you. Like I'm a fan of you. I'm a fan of what you're doing. Like love
Same.
you.
Same.
Anyways, back to the brands. Oh man, you know, I feel like I've had two lives on social media. It was pre my mental breakdown, pre Britney Spears moment that happened where I went. I remember back in those days, like I had, oh man, I wish I could tell you who my first brand was. My first brand who reached out to me ever and sent me a PR box was Sigma. Do you
Mhm.
remember Sigma Beauty?
Yeah.
I was at a Mac training camp in Dallas when Sigma sent me my very first PR box ever. And it was crazy to me. It was insane to me. It was such a like the universe is speaking to me, and like it just reminded me that I'm on the right path. It's so surreal. I remember there was another time where I was talking to somebody about like trying to motivate myself to keep on going, and I was like talking about brands and I'm going to get on these PR lists, and then ColourPop sends me an email that they want to add me to their PR, and literally that day, that morning, hours before, I was talking about it and it happens. And it was insane. Like to me, I consider those are the first times that brands have wanted to work with me. And this was pre my Britney Spears moment, like 2017, 18, 19, 20. And I actually got kicked off of most of my PR lists prior to when I moved here because I dropped off the face of the earth, right? ColourPop kicked me off. Um, and now I have a whole new lineup of brands that are reaching out to me, that are sending me things that want to work with me. Whether it's just gifting or actually paid collaborations and stuff like that. And back to the thing of motivating people, it's okay to fall off. I fell off, and the number one thing that kept me from coming back was thinking I missed my opportunity. I messed it up. I hated myself because how dare I quit? How did I let myself get to this point where I stopped posting that nobody even knows me? In my mind, I thought that no brand was ever going to reach out to me, that there wasn't more, that nobody else would want me. But that's so false, because I somehow ended up on a whole new lineup where Lancome, I'm just like did my little skincare routine. And I was thankfully sent this product from Lancome. And I remember Lancome because when I worked at Mac, I worked at a Dillard's. And I remember I would go like get samples from Lancome. So now I have their products, and I just looked it up, and like I have like super expensive like little morning skincare routine that I'm like, they said um, and I say all that to say that sometimes like you miss certain opportunities, or sometimes you feel like you fumbled the bag, or an opportunity is never going to come back. But false. It is so false. Like you can reinvent yourself. I've lived 7 lives already. Like please reinvent yourself. Like start a new Instagram, change your name. There's always going to be more. Like the universe gives, and it doesn't stop giving. You just stop reaching out for it. You keep reaching out for it, you'll get it. um but yeah, like it was crazy. I still have these moments even now where I'm like, oh my gosh, like I think one of my recent brand collaboration that I did um actually didn't really go on. I didn't really have a great experience with them because I just didn't have that great of an experience with them. But it's still crazy to me when people want to work with me, even just send me things. Just sending me things is just crazy because it allows me to have things I otherwise probably can't afford or would never buy myself. And it's really just about posting, literally. Like just fake it till you make it. And people are like, oh, what are your tips? Literally just post. Like if you carry yourself in the way where you're a creator, whether you have 300 followers or like 100,000, like that's literally what brands are looking for. Like they're looking for people who post videos that have to be good, because you start getting good at something when you've been bad at something for a while. You don't just start being good. Like what I had to tell myself when I came back to socials after my hiatus, TikTok was a big thing. And I remembered having to text my little sister, like, hey, how do I add text to this video? I was so bad. I was so, so bad. I remember my sister telling me I was cringe, that my videos were cringe. She's like, you know how you know how you feel about mom's posts? She's like, you kind of a little cringy. And I was like, you're right, you're
That's
right. Do the cringe, because after you're cringe for so long, you start to get the hang of it. And if I wasn't cringe, like I don't watch my old videos. Actually, I don't watch any of my videos unless they're like super, super recent because I literally want to throw up. They're cringe. But if I hadn't done those really terrible videos, like I wouldn't have the eye now to create good videos. Like you be bad at something until you're good at it.
I love that. I love that. Now, before we wrap it up, I always love to ask this question because, of course, we're on social media, and social media, people have this perception of like that they know you, that they get to see the real you. But of course, there's some things that you just can't share on social media. So, what is one thing that you would love your followers to know about you that they can't get off of your social media? Like, about your personality, about your life, about anything that you would want to share.
I think one thing that I would like to share is, and I want to normalize that we're all frauds. Okay. We are all frauds. I am a fraud. And I say that in a way where I sometimes post things about confidence. Confidence is key. Confidence, this, fake it till you make it. And I really try to be a positive, inspirational thing. But most of the time, I'm talking to myself. I am talking to myself. I am trying to be a confident person. I am trying to be somebody who reaches for their dreams. I'm trying to be somebody that works hard and that is constantly and continuously striving to reach what they want, whether that's like, I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be successful. Like, I want people to know that we're all literally frauds, at least me. Like I am not a extremely confident person, but I try to be. I work on it. I have faked so many things in my life until I've made it, and sometimes like you called me an influencer. You posted the flyer of this podcast and you said influencer, and I said this girl's calling me an influencer. She doesn't even know that I'm not, like nobody knows that I'm like, that I have mental breakdowns every other day thinking that I'm not doing good enough, that I could be better. And where it's so good to strive to be better, like it's so good to strive to be better, but we're at a part where like sometimes we don't feel like it. And I think we need to normalize that. We need to normalize that we're literally all just trying to get there. And even maybe when we get there, we won't even know because there's always a step ahead and a reminder to ourselves, excuse my dog, a reminder to ourselves that it's okay to be in the present, okay. It's okay to be bad at stuff. I'm bad at so many things. And people probably don't even know that, they don't know that I'm really just trying to figure out. I'm really just trying to heal. I'm really trying to fake it till I make it. And that's the epitome of who I am as a person. I really am just trying to just be a better version of myself every single day. And some days I show up as a super confident person, as a put together influencer content creator. But the whole time I'm not. Whole time I'm literally just a girl. I'm literally just a girl trying to heal and trying to reach for their dreams. And that's what I want people to know. Like I want people to know that sometimes we feel like, oh, this person's better than us, or, oh, I wish I was like her. But that person's just like you, meaning we're all on the same level. Like we can all do what it is that we need to do. We may need a little help, like therapy, right? But nadie es más que nadie, todo se puede.
I
That
love
would be my thing.
I love that because I think that is something that we need to, like you said, normalize and realize that we are just alike. It's just that we're a little more willing to reach for what we want, and other people need to do it too. Stop being scared. Stop being scared. We all struggle. We all have that lack of confidence sometimes, but I'm glad that you're able to share that with our followers and with yours. Again, thank you for joining me this morning. I am so glad that I got to speak to you, that I got to know a little bit more about you. And like I said, it is honestly so beautiful to see your journey because I've been a fan for a long time. So thank you again for letting me tell a little piece of your story with my followers.
Well, thank you. Thank you for listening to me. This is a yapping girl's dream, like to be on a podcast. And I feel like I took so much of this podcast with me just rambling. So I'm so sorry. But thank you so much. I am a fan of you. I'm a fan of everything you're doing and everything you do. So it's very much mutual.
Thank you. Well, I hope that we get to connect again. And if you guys haven't already, make sure that you guys go follow her. I'll have all her social media handles at the bottom of the description box. And we'll see you guys for another episode next time.